commercial when I was a kid. That's pretty much it. I actually didn't do in front of the scene stuff. I did some behind the scenes stuff later in life. I did try out, though. My dad took me to Paramount, where I did actually try out for the Bad News Bears, and I got 2 callbacks on it. I was at the second callback, which was great. It was actually on the set with Tatum O'Neal, and it was at the actual old set for the Brady Bunch. I was in the Brady Bunch's backyard. They took us outside to play baseball out inside Paramount, and then they didn't call me back, and that pretty much crushed my dreams. And I think that's pretty early on. My father saw that I didn't have I don't like rejection, and I wasn't in my heart enough for it, and but I worked on some special effects, either via equipment, not really necessarily the creative stuff, but with the creative people that did some of the special effects for Forrest Gump.
Oh, I love it.
Special effects for True Lies. I actually was integral in the first sale to Pixar for the first. They used SGI Silicon Graphics computer machines and high-end RAID storage devices that were AV optimized for the new video animation, and I worked on that. So I had my hand in and around, but nothing too major.
Right.
I worked as a carpenter for a short time at the studios, and I'm a horrible carpenter, so.
Guilty Creature can't drive a nail either. Can I ask you, how did you react, and what was the very first show that you saw your dad on TV?
Oh, God. I can't remember. I know that I just know that that's one of them.
Give me a hint.
That was one of them. Okay. I think, to be honest with you, though, actually it was probably like an episode of The Virginian or something. But I remember very early on seeing my father on, of course, the ribbon. I will tell you that I do remember being in the other room of the house and it's like my brother hearing my dad's voice on Hand to Death. I hear my dad's voice, but it's coming from the TV set. And I run in there, and my dad's sitting in his chair, drinking his iced tea, watching himself on TV, which he didn't do very often. I mean, don't want to make him sound like some idiot, but just was happened to be on. And I look and I go, Dad, how are you here? And how are you there? And I remember him just looking at me going, oh, it's make-believe. It's make-believe.
Yeah.
And the weird thing about that is, like, just maybe a month or two later, we had the moon landing. And so the moon, they were landing, they're walking on the moon. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching it. My mom's going, look, they're walking on the moon. This is history. Look, it's real.
Make-believe.
And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Dad, TV, make-believe. Like, he's not really the cop that shot that guy. So, needless to say, that explains a lot the way that I am the way I am. Twisted reality.
Fabulous. I wanna run down through some of these movies that your dad was in. He was Lieutenant Michael O'Rourke in Fort Apache.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He was Lieutenant Flint Cohill in She Wore a Yellow Ribbon.
Yes.
Okay. He was PFC Peter Conway in Sands of Iwo Jima.
Yes.
Along the Great Divide.
I'm going to step back for you for 1 minute. I want to just say, just for the fans and for you all, one of the most fascinating things about my father's career to me is that, he was a physical instructor in World War II in the U.S. Army Air Corps. His father passed away when they were young. My grandmother inherited the family's business, which was a meat packing company called Agar Packing and Provisions, which is famous to this day. They still have Agar hams as a brand. They sold that business. My grandmother takes that money, moves to Los Angeles, buys a house in Beverly Hills, which is like 1 or 2 doors down from the Temple family. And so my dad she's the girl next door, literally. My father is a U.S. Army Air Corps instructor, gets released out of World War II, and is hanging around the house. And a famous producer by the name of David O. Selznick was trying to hit on my grandmother. And my dad was kind of around all the time, not working, kind of hanging out with Mom and at the house. And Selznick comes by the house one day and says, what are you going to do with your life? He goes, well, I don't know. And he goes, you're a good-looking kid. You ought to be an actor. Here's some money. Here's a ticket. Go to New York and take an acting lesson.
How old was he?
He does this to get my old man out of the so he can put the moves on Grandma. Long story short, he goes to the classes. He comes back to L.A. Selznick didn't get anywhere with him, and so my grandma happens to go on a cruise. Lily and Agar, and actually she was Lillian Rogers. She was actually a first cousin to Will Rogers, which is another family.
A whole other story.
Thing. I never met a man I didn't like. I've got that somewhere way down on my bloodline. But at any rate, she comes back. My grandmother goes on a cruise with John Ford's wife to Hawaii. How sweet is that? You know, that family money they had then was worth its weight. She goes on there and tells him, hey, if Selznick was trying to put the moves on me, he didn't do it. My son went to acting school. He's not an actor. What do I do? John Ford's wife tells my grandmother, hey, have him come down and see my husband and do a screen test when you get back. And the next is history. He goes to the lot. He meets John Ford, who was an admiral or something, or a captain, maybe. He was in military, Navy. He goes in, he meets John Ford. Nobody gave John Ford shit at all. I mean, it was like this guy was spit and polished military, tough guy, and no joke. He goes in and he goes to my dad. He goes, so, you were in the Air Force, huh? He goes, up and away, crash. And my father doesn't miss a beat. He looks at him, he goes, so, you're in the Navy, huh? Anchors away, sink. Like, F you, old man. Yeah. And Ford liked that. Gave him the screen test, and so to go back how I started the story, he got put into his very first film, no other experience, opposite John Wayne and Henry Fonda in Fort Apache. And if you look at the movie today, it'll still say, by special arrangement by David O. Selznick, because David might not have got Grandma, but he got a piece of my old man's contract, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Good story.
He got a piece of an Agar one way or another.
Well, having your dad a renowned preacher is Professor Cleet Ferguson, and then I really enjoy Tarantula.
I love that film.
I love it that he was Dr. Matt Hastings. There's just so much. The Mole People, Daughter of Dr. Jekyll, the Brain from Planet Eris.
Yes.
King Kong, Mr. No Legs.
The Mole People.
The list just goes
the
on
Mole
and
People.
on.
How can you top the Mole People?
I got a great story.
That's a classic.
You want to hear a great little bit of trivia that Pops, Mayor of New York. He was better than Rudy, too, I can tell you that.
There you go.
Let me tell you the greatest Mole People story. I heard this recently from a good friend of my father's by the name of Ted Newsom, who's a writer. He used to write for several magazines in the day and did some television. But Ted was telling me a story about my pop on Mole People. And if you guys see the film Mole People, it's whack, man. It's crazy. They're eating mushrooms. He's with Beaver's dad, Hugh Beaumont. Yeah. They're eating down mushrooms. They're underground. You got John Carradine in there. You got these guys are glittering, and they're just underground, and there's sand everywhere. They've got the quicksand holes, and it's insane. The set must have been just phenomenal, right? So my father's on contract at Universal, and who walks onto the set? None other than Rock Hudson. And I never knew this. And my old man and Rock knew each other. I guess hung out in the day. They weren't close, but they were close. Yeah. At any rate, right?
Yeah, not that
Rock
close.
Hudson comes in and goes, hey, he takes a look at this set. He goes, Agar, what the hell did you get yourself into? I just think that is just a kick, man. That is to me, because you got to remember, and I'm a fan. I am just as much a fan. I mean, I grew up, my dad was in the movies, but trust me, I am as much a fan as any and all of us, right? And to hear that, you got to understand that was like, my dad wasn't a plumber. He was an actor, and part of that acting was the corporate grind. I mean, they were all working together. And when you think about that, you kind of give it some thought. That another actor, Rock Hudson, he's probably doing Pajama Game down the block with Doris, right? It's a totally different vibe. Color, champagne, convertible car. And here's my old man and Hugh Beaumont scurrying around on the ground with a bunch of, Mole People, right? And I just think that's funny that, hey, Agar, what the hell did you get yourself into here? That's just kind of funny, a little jab. Yeah. So, I digress.
Really loved Rock Hudson, and he did a lot of great stuff too.
He sure
Great
did.
guy.
I also noticed that your dad was in Perry Mason.
Say that again, Cindy. I
He
missed
did a lot
that.
of shows.
I said your father was in Perry Mason.
Oh yeah.
Perry
He did a
Mason.
lot of episodic television.
One of my
He was
favorite
also in
detective
Charlie's
shows,
Angels.
for sure.
I have it down. I think the one that I have is The Case of the Caretaker's Cat, and his name was Kenneth Baxter.
Sounds about right.
That's Stu Baxter's cousin.
He was in Rawhide, the incident of the Buffalo Smokehouse, and his name was Lon Grant. Bat Masterson, he was in the episode Farmer with a Badge. His name was Sam Phelps. I could go on and on and on about your dad. I just love your dad.
I see his last acting episode was A Highway to Heaven in 1984. So that was actually when he wrapped it up.
Television. I think he did something. After that as well.
After that?
Oh yeah, my father worked up until the day he passed, so he worked all the way up until I think the last thing he did was in '99. If you look, that may just be what's listed, but he did a lot of stuff. I'm not sure if it's listed in your material there. I don't know if you're going from Wikipedia. I know Wikipedia is pretty light on stuff.
Yeah.
But he did. I don't know if Body Bags is listed there. That was one of my favorites. He did too. He did Body Bags.
He was in Ripcord. When I was growing up, Ripcord was a big deal. You know, I mean, I'm old, but you know, in 1961, when I was growing up, when Ripcord came out, it was a few years after that. But I saw Ripcord, and you know, it just amazes me how many different things he was in and helped produce and help direct and help do just about everything. And you know, phenomenal dad.
He sure did.
Yeah, he had a pretty prolific career. You really think about it, from obviously 1948, I guess 49, all the way up until his passing. 1999 I think was the last thing he did. He actually did. He did some small parts that were, he did a movie with Ali Sheedy where he actually took a shotgun blast. He had to be 75 years old, and he did the stunt himself.
Wow.
Cracked ribs and still continued to shoot. He did, one of the things I said, I got to go on the set when he shot with John Carpenter on Body Bags, and he was opposite Mark Hamill and Twiggy, the model, and I got to watch him shoot. I got to meet Mark Hamill. I got to meet John, and John Carpenter had several directors on that set, Roger Corman and David Cronenberg, who both requested to be in the scene with my dad. My dad had a lot of respect from a lot of his contemporaries. I mean, my father was very chill guy. He had a bit of a bad rap with his divorce with Shirley. He had some bouts with alcoholism back in the day when, it wasn't as widely accepted or viewed as a disease as is now.
Yeah.
I could think of some modern contemporaries. My father never shot heroin and jumped in some child's bedroom. He did far less. He drank a little booze and made a bad mistake of driving a car, right? But we know that a contemporary actor did just that. Shot heroin, laid in a kid's bed. He's one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood. I love him, Robert Downey Jr. But the point is, it was a different day and age. Going through that, he still made it through. And as I was saying, he had a lot of respect from a lot of his contemporaries. And I can tell you that being a fan, Roger Corman and Cronenberg are like idols to me. So was Carpenter. John Carpenter was amazing. We got to hang out at John's house, meet Mark Hamill. I got to sit with Mark Hamill for 30 minutes. This is after the first Star Wars and before the new wave. What a freaking nice guy. Just a nice guy, man.
I think great. That's kind of like the very first time that I got to meet Susanna Lee. She was Elvis's co-star in Paradise Hawaiian Style.
There you go.
We went to Elvis passed away on Kilted Creature's birthday, and so we had made arrangements to go out to Graceland, and so we got hold of the GM out there, and KC went as himself as RJ. And we dressed up in full Celtic regalia. We were brought to Graceland to the gates. We marched up from the gates to the Memorial Gardens, and RJ bagpiped, and they wouldn't let him stop. These people, there was a couple of hundred people that had gone up the driveway with us. Okay.
Wow.
And so we had the general manager, and then we had Argo, who is the DJ for Elvis Sirius Radio 13. And they did live feeds from the whole thing with us. So we got up to the Memorial Gardens, and like I said, he started playing "Love Me Tender" on the bagpipes, and everybody lost their cookies. I mean, it was just amazing. But they wouldn't let RJ leave. So for the full hour before they opened up the main mansion, RJ bagpiped for these people at the Memorial Gardens. When we left, we went back to the radio station, did another interview. We were all finished. We were walking through some of the stores, and we're still dressed, and we're going back to Heartbreak Hotel. And anyway, we're hearing ourselves over the loudspeaker on this continual loop, and it was just crazy for us, So anyway, we get back to the hotel, we get changed, and the next day, the front desk called us and said that there was a person that wanted to see us. And we, of course, thought it was the GM from the mansion or Argo. So we got dressed, we went downstairs, and there in the lobby was Miss Susanna Lee, and she wanted to meet my husband because Elvis Presley loved the bagpipes, and there were no bagpipes at his funeral. And so he wanted to meet RJ, and we became good friends, and right up until she passed too, so it's kind of like that's how I felt when I met her.
Do you know how I feel? I feel like the way that you felt when she wanted to meet you. I feel that way when you guys want to talk to me.
Thank you,
Preacher, and you.
That's awesome.
And I'll tell you, Cap.
Hey.
I just got born. That's all I did, man. Like I say. I'm the son of Godzilla. My old man was Godzilla.
Son of Godzilla.
I gotta tell you.
I love it. All right, who's up for a couple of spins of the Wheel of Fun? You up for a couple of spins, John?
Say that again?
Are
you up for a couple of spins of the Wheel of Fun?
The Wheel of Fun.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
Let's do this.
Spin it, Captain.
All right, here we go.
The Wheel of Chaos.
Yeah.
Favorite superhero and why?
Bloody hell, man.
That's a tough one.
Like this.
That's a
Favorite
tough one.
Superhero and why? I guess I'd have to look. I'm not going to freak anyone out, or I guess I'd have to say Superman, because the guy came from another planet, comes to this country, adopts our ways, and fights for freedom, justice, and the American way. And the son of a gun could jump over a building in a single bound, faster than a speeding bullet. And plus, I really like most of the Lois Lane, so.
Yeah. What was great was him going into the phone booth, changed.
There you go.
Good answer. All right, here we go. Spin number 2.
I want another Wheel of Fun. It's better than the Wheel of Fish, right, Creature?
All right. Okay, here you go. Recite some Shakespeare.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Yeah, ask not what you can do. Right, there you go.
That's close, right? Close. All right, one more time. Here we go.
Well, listen, John, it's been a blast, and I really enjoyed our interview. And I wanted to wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patty's Day.
As they say in Ireland, be dead and gone to heaven an hour before the devil knows you're gone.
There you go. That's even better than Shakespeare.
There you go. That's been a pleasure for you guys.
It's been really great having you on the show. John, Agar, thank you so much for being on the show, and we really appreciate it.
We love you, John.
This is John Agar, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Love you. Bye.
Peace out.
All right, I want to do one more intro. Hang on. Count to 3, and I'm gonna do one more intro with the clapping. You ready?
You got it. You got it, Eric.
All right, welcome to the Swamp. Hold on. All right, welcome to Swamp Stomp Live. We're live here with Kilted Creature and Cindy the Keeper. That didn't work either. Hang on. All right, welcome to Swamp Stomp Live. We're here with John Agar III. I don't know. Introduce him, Cindy. I can't do this.
John Agar III, my buddy from LA. We've got KC over here, and then I'm the people in Captain D.
My pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank
I just
you
wanted
so
to get
much.
some clapping in there.
Yes, I can start it.
There you
Thank you
go.
very much.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much
John.
for being
We
on the show.
appreciate you.
Good. Do we need anything else? Cut?
I think that's it, eh?
I don't.
Are we done?
Good. If we catch everything, listen. If it's too embarrassing, use it anyway.
Hey, it'll be in the outtakes.
Remember, I'm the son of Godzilla. I'm just lucky to be on.
That's right. We'll have an outtakes reel also. So.
Well, listen. Thank you all so much. I enjoyed it. This is fun. Hey, it's good to meet you.
Yeah.
And it's great to see you and chat, Cindy. And of course, Jay.
Absolutely.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks for being on, man. We really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it too. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna go run some Saturday chaos. It's Saturday morning for me still.
True. That's true.
I'm happy. I got this done before the morning.
That's awesome.
Anytime I can do anything for y'all, you know I'm down. And thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Have a good one.
Peace out. You guys have a great day.
You
Cheers,
too.
man.
Cheers. That was wrong. What the? All right, who's there? God. All right.
Let's do the welcome intro.
Okay, hang on. Let me make sure this thing... Okay, we got 22 minutes on this one. I'm going to cut it so the videos aren't so long when I'm sending it. So let me stop it.
What do we